decided to make the leap and become an entrepreneur. And I did that just 6 months ago. So this is a really new journey for me. And I had been practicing as a life coach while I was still in the corporate world, and decided that it really was my life's passion, as well as learning the teachings of Ayurveda. So I'm going to teach you how to say that, just so that you know. This is like the party trick for today's lunch. So Ayurveda, and we'll learn about what that is today. To say I, your Veda. Can you say that with me? I, your Veda. Awesome, 2 gold stars. That's fabulous. Really good. So what we're going to cover today is a number of things. I have about 25 minutes, and then I'm going to teach you how to meditate in a very short period of time before Rebecca goes up. Who's up for meditation today? Awesome, good. How many of you have tried meditation or have an existing current meditation practice right now? Wow, wonderful. Love to see that. Thank you so much. And so here's what we're going to cover. Life can be a bit messy, and particularly at this time of year. Getting ready for the holidays, decorating, shopping. In many cases, this responsibility falls to the ladies of the house, right? People that are here, they have a lot of responsibility. And when you hear someone say, oh, I'm all done my Christmas shopping, what do you want to do to them? Stressful. So we're going to talk about how we all have emotional needs that might relate to that too. And what happens when we're stressed at this time of year? It's probably a little more heightened or acute. And we'll look at how to harness the power of conscious communication. So what we might say to someone who tells us they're all done their Christmas shopping by November the 1st. And then we'll also look at how we align with energy and information that is all around us. And what I'm really here to tell you, one of the key messages is that that can be very fleeting, and it can be disappointing. I'll use an example of, if you go out and you have retail therapy. How many of you ever experienced retail therapy? I know, I've been down that road too. Occasionally it still hits me. And you buy, whether it's a new pair of shoes or a new top or something like that, and you get it home and you're really excited, and then after you've worn it a few times, do you still have that same feeling about it? It's sort of fleeting, right? And that happens when we look externally to find happiness. So going within and trying to connect with our top 4 emotional needs, and I'll talk to you about that, is really the lasting way to achieve and maintain more balance, more harmony, and more joy in your life. So we really can create our own happiness. This is all about what's already within you. You have all the skills, the talents, the abilities, the gifts, and the insights to know how to do this, if you allow yourself to take the time to be able to do it. And one of the key ways to be able to find that is through meditation. And so we're actually going to make this a very experiential session today, so you'll learn how to do that. So we all have needs. How many are familiar with the pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Everyone knows, you learn that in school and you see that. Well, when we break away from those, making sure we've got a roof over our heads and we're fed and we're looking at this journey towards self-actualization, it really comes down to everything that we're looking for is about these 4 A's and looking for them to get met. So what are they? Right? Think about this for yourself. If you really break it down and sort of peel back the layers of the onion, they are attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. Sometimes it's difficult for us to be able to articulate that, right? Because we don't necessarily take the time to think about a feeling that we have regarding a situation and how to say, does that relate to something I need regarding attention, affection, appreciation? Whatever it might be, it always stems to those 4 A's, okay? So when we don't have these 4 A's met, and sometimes it can be very difficult when you're juggling a lot of balls and you're doing a number of things, you've got a lot of accountability, we suppress a lot of those emotions, and we're not able to actually bring that forward and be able to share that either with ourselves or with those that we care about or who are in our lives. And what tends to happen, the more stress we feel, the more anxiety we have, the more we tend to speed up the things in our life and try to do more and say yes to more. the more we find ourselves in this concept or this state of fight or flight. Right? You probably heard about this just probably around the same time you heard about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But we spend the 7 biological responses that we can have in our body, we spend the majority of our time in 2 of those states. And the one is fight or flight, and the second is just what I call a passive-aggressive version of fight or flight, and that is a reactive response. So fight or flight comes back to those primitive times. We know that we don't need to worry about carrying a club in our hand when we're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, right? Or perhaps we need it more when we're in dealing with the retail therapy and we're in a really packed store and there's an amazing sale on 70% off a pair of shoes that you want. But the reality is, we still have those feelings, right? We still run into a situation where our blood pressure might increase, our immune system is depressed, and the release of cortisol, which is a really bad thing, as a stress agent in our body, can cause us to gain weight, it can cause us to lose sleep, it can cause us to be irritable, to feel fatigue, to feel depression. And all of that emotional toxicity sits in our body and in our mind if we don't deal with it, if it doesn't get released. Well, how do we heal our emotions and get rid of this toxicity? Well, there are 7 steps to doing this. And I'm going to tell you that I can't tell you in 1 minute, but Deepak Chopra, how many of you have heard of Dr. Deepak Chopra, right? So he's been my teacher on my journey through Ayurveda and as a meditation teacher, and he's got a very short 1 minute video that I'm hoping is going to work, and he'll be able to talk to you about this in 1 minute and 15 seconds. You ready? Let's do it.
There are at least 7 steps to releasing emotional toxicity. The first step is take responsibility for your emotions. So if you think that somebody else is causing your emotional toxicity, then you have to wait for them to change, which means you could be waiting for the rest of your life. The second thing is to witness the emotions in your body. Think of an experience you had, an interaction with somebody that was uncomfortable. The more you feel the sensation, the more you get in touch with the emotion. The third thing is define it. Is it anger? Is it fear? The fourth thing is express it. Write down what happens after you've expressed it, then share it with a loved one. Then do a ritual to release it. Burn it, throw it to the wind, and then once you release it, then do something to bring that to a closure. Go out and celebrate. That's how you release toxic emotions.
There we go. How's that? 1 minute, 15 seconds. Now you know how to release the emotional toxins in your body. There is a lot more to that, and I certainly go through it in my Perfect Health program, which takes 4 weeks. So 2 hours weekly for 4 weeks, so it takes a little bit longer. But this gives you it in a nutshell. Another way to do this is to really clearly and quietly be able to observe what's happened to you in a situation. And this can become very difficult if you are interacting and maybe having a disagreement with a loved one. Maybe it's a partner, your husband, a really close friend, maybe your child, your teenager, and they know how to push your buttons, right? And I'm going to teach you these 4 steps very quickly to look at conscious communication. But the reality is it can become very difficult when we are heightened in terms of our emotion, or someone does know how to really, push our button, get our goat. And if we're actually able to step back and look at the situation without judgment and without evaluation, we are in a much better situation then to become more of a curious, detached observer to what's happened, as opposed to throwing judgment and evaluation on someone. For example, I could say, I have 2 daughters, one is 15, the other one is 11. My teenager is a wonderful girl, but a little bit on the messy side in her room. Sometimes I just close the door and walk away because I need to. And I might say to her, Sammy, you're lazy because your room's been messy and you haven't cleaned it up in 3 weeks. But that would probably put a wall up for her, right? That would make her feel like she'd want to clean the room. She'd probably be ticked at me for that. But if I said to her, we've talked about this for the last 3 weeks, and I have asked you about cleaning your room, and every day you would say to me, yes, Mom, I'll do this at the end of today, and that hasn't happened. So that's just an observation, right? And that's the difference between just stating what happened versus creating judgment around it, because we do have emotions that tend to get wrapped up in that. Does that make sense? So the more we're able to do that and become this, as I said, curious, detached observer, the greater chance we have to be able to connect with someone without making it seem as if we're causing conflict or causing them to feel self-defensive. Then, if we're able to actually recognize the emotion that they have in that scenario. So for me, it might be, I want to feel appreciated as a mom. I do a lot of work around the house, so I'm identifying with that need. So I might say to Sammy, when this happens and your room isn't cleaned, I feel sad because I'm not appreciated. Remember going back to those top 4 needs? With me so far? So that's step 2. Step 3 then is, how can I take responsibility for it? How can I take responsibility for my feelings? And then to be able to create the ask, to say to her, I need this to happen for these reasons. And I might list whatever they are. How do you feel about that? Meditation, and talk about the benefits of it. And there are many, but basically it provides access to expanded states of awareness and what things are nourishing or not nourishing. And I use some very technical terms. You don't need to write this down because I'm pretty sure you're going to remember. Yum and yuck. So yum are the things that feel good, and we intuitively feel that. Our body never lies to us. It always tells us our truth. But our mind can constrict the truth from us and tell us to soldier through and push forward on things. And moms are notorious for this, aren't we? Right? We just do what we have to do. We race through our day. We often eat over the kitchen sink because we've been so busy preparing food for our loved ones that we don't take time to nourish ourselves, and that creates yuck in us. Okay, so meditation can help you really explore and identify where you want to dial up the yum and dial down or eliminate the yuck. Okay? So the silence is where we want to get, this quiet stillness in our life. Everything, as I said earlier, is made up of energy and information. At a molecular level, if we were able to actually take a high-powered microscope and look at the chair that I'm staring at right now, we would be able to see these molecules moving, vibrating at this high frequency. But in between them, there is a space. And that space is the place that we need to get to, or we hope to get to in meditation, this mindful awareness. So 4 things that can happen in meditation. I'm going to give you a mantra to use, and a mantra is simply a vehicle of the mind. And what that does is take you from a state of activity where your thoughts are very busy to a place of quiet to help bring you into that place of stillness, that space between. Okay? We can also think thoughts. Many people will say to me, I'm not doing this meditation thing right. I keep having thoughts. Of course you're going to have thoughts. You're going to have thoughts because if you didn't, you would be dead. Okay? You need to think. We have 70 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and we probably want every minute to a minute and a half. And when you're meditating, you're still going to have thoughts. But when you have a thought, all I ask you to do is recognize it and say, oh, there's a thought, and then come back to the mantra. Okay? You might fall asleep, which happens from time to time because your body needs the rest, and you may slip into this gap, the space in between. Right? So mantra, as I said, is just a vehicle. It has no meaning to it. And what we want to do in meditation, or basically with any other activity except when we're eating, is to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. And when we do that, there's a sound that we make when we're inhaling and exhaling. And that sound is so hum. When we breathe in, when we inhale, the sound we make, we think it in meditation, is so. And when we exhale, the sound is hum. Okay. Just try that with me once. So. Okay, so we're going to do this silently. We're going to listen to the sound silently in our meditation. All right. And every time we have a thought, we're going to come back to this mantra, so on the inhale and hum on the exhale. If you'd like to try this on your own, if you haven't done this type of meditation before and you're interested, there's a free app, and I'm actually going to use it right now for our 5 minutes of meditation. It's called Insight Timer, and you can download it whether you have a BlackBerry or you have an iPhone or an Android device. Insight Timer, or you can try more guided meditations through an app called Living in Love, and this is put out by the Chopra Center as well. The Insight Timer is completely free, and it's a great timer to use just to be able to walk you through it, and you can also find out how many people are meditating with you throughout the world. And we'll find that out right now.